Hidden in the Buckinghamshire countryside lies Bletchley Park. For the Allied forces, it was one of the most important, and for a long time, secret locations during the Second World War.
Well, Bletchley Park was the wartime home of an organisation called the Government Code and Cipher School, and that was a cover name for an organisation that was concerned with listening to and breaking enemy communications. So the Germans, the Italians were talking on wireless to one another, we were listening to those messages, and then the job of the people here was to unpick those messages, break the codes and find out what the Germans were saying to each other.
Bletchley Park was a huge military intelligence operation. The staff included linguists, engineers and mathematicians, all with a different role to play.
Many of them came from the different armed services, so the code-breaking machinery was run by women in the Royal Navy, Wrens. All of the communications equipment were all run by women from the RAF. So you've got a huge mix of different people, lots of different backgrounds. The majority of them very young as well. Most people here would have been under 25.
Thousands of staff worked on a huge variety of messages, encrypted in different ways. One of their biggest challenges was to crack the German Enigma cipher. The Nazis believed this was unbreakable.
This is an Enigma machine, and it was used by the Nazis in World War II to encrypt their communications. Basically, if I press a key on the machine, it lights up the wrong letter. I've pressed H and it's lit up E. One really interesting feature of the machine is if I press the same letter again, H, it lights up a different letter. This time it's lit up P, press H again, it's lit up V, press H again, it's lit up F this time.
Even though Bletchley Park knew how Enigma machines worked, decoding the messages was incredibly difficult. This was because the machines had millions of possible settings.
The security of the machine is based on the idea that even if your enemy has a machine, it doesn't help him, because it's the way the machine is configured for the particular message that you send that's important.
The settings that were being used for Enigma were changed every single day at midnight. The first thing you'd have to do is pick the right rotors. You'd have 5 of these in your set and you'd pick the right 3 to go in the machine here. Each rotor has a different setting on it called a ring setting, so that needs to be set in the right place as well. Aside from that, there's a plug board with 26 sockets in it, each one labelled with a letter of the alphabet, and I would have 10 cables to get in the right sockets. And you put all those things together, you end up with a grand total of 159 quintillion. That's 159 million different possible ways to set this machine up. So if you're trying to guess which one of those settings is the right one, that is the one that was used by your enemy, you've got a very tough job ahead of you.
Early attempts to break Enigma were done by hand. They were intensive and time-consuming. The codebreakers, including mathematician Alan Turing, started to think about ways of speeding up the process.
You have people like Alan Turing start to think, hang on, machines are being used to encrypt these messages. Could we use machines to decrypt them?
Alan Turing and his colleagues created a mechanical code-breaking machine. They called it the bomb.
The bomb was a machine that was developed here, and it was designed to eliminate possible settings on the Enigma machine by trying them out one by one. And it'd do this using an electromechanical method. Rows of drums on the front of the machine that would turn. They would be essentially emulating Enigma machines, a whole series of Enigma machines at the same time, and it would flick through lots of settings very, very quickly, much more quickly than a human being could do it.
Once they come up with the concept for the bomb machine, it became apparent that they could never really have enough. And they manufactured over 200 of those machines as the war went on, and that allowed them to break thousands and thousands of messages.
intercepted messages were analysed by the RAF, Army and Navy. This intelligence was used to make decisions that affected the war.
Almost any aspect of the conflict that you look at, you'll see there's a little bit of Bletchley Park in there. Eisenhower, who was in command of the Allied forces after Normandy, wrote that it had saved thousands of Allied lives, and that's not an exaggeration. It's an inescapable part of the victory in World War II.